Mark Brantley here, your credit union evangelist or CU evangelist. We are spreading the good news about CUs, or in other words, spreading the good news about credit unions. And once again, I am honored that you are taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in to my channel to learn everything credit unions. And today's topic will be about credit unions tax exemption status. Credit unions tax exempt status. And for those that may not know, credit unions are exempt from taxes, not all taxes, but federal taxes. Of course, credit unions have to pay state and local taxes. There are also payroll taxes that credit unions pay, but they are exempt from federal taxes. But before we go into a deep dive on credit unions tax exempt status, I really never had an opportunity to talk about who is the credit union evangelist and why does he come on this channel and create this video content to spread the good news about CUs. Well, I am formerly from New York City. I now reside in the state of Arizona, and I spent 30 plus years in the unified court system of New York State as a chief administrative officer, not the entire 30 years, but I've been in administrative positions. But in my last 20 years or so, I was the chief administrator for a agency within the court system, namely the New York County Clerk's Office. And then also I served on a few credit union boards. I was the former chairman of a multi-billion-dollar credit union in New York City. You might know it by the name of Municipal Credit Union. I also served on the boards of the Credit Union National Association. That's the former name, and it's now called America's Credit Unions since they merged with the other trade organization named NAFCU. So now CUNA has become America's Credit Unions, which is the premier national trade organization for credit unions. And I served on their board for about a year. And then I served a few years on the board of the African American Credit Union Coalition, otherwise known as the AACUC. And there I was the vice chairman of the board of directors, as well as serving as the chief advocacy strategist, where I dealt with legislative and regulatory matters. I championed diversity, DEI on behalf of AACUC. And I just enjoyed my several years of experience working with credit unions and within the credit union movement. And during these years, I've developed a passion. And that's why I created the Credit Union Evangelist channel, because although I'm not serving in those capacities as a board member for those organizations, nevertheless, I still like to get the word out about how credit unions impact the lives of those of modest means. I am such a person who was impacted a great deal, not just serving as a director for these organizations I just named, but as a member. Credit unions changed my life as a member. It allowed me to build my credit that was once had a low credit report score. I was able to consolidate my delinquent loans. And before you know it, I was in good financial standing. And I am what I am today financially because of credit unions. Well, also by the grace of Jesus Christ. Let's not forget that. But credit unions was the natural vehicle by which my financial positioning has changed for the better. And when you have good news, it's good to spread it. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm spreading the good news about CUs. So let us go right into the topic at hand, which is talking about the credit union tax exempt status. And it's been creating a brouhaha these last weeks and months. But this has been an issue of contention uh, down through the years when it comes to banks and other financial institutions criticizing the fact that credit unions enjoy federal tax exempt status. But there's a reason why that's the case. And it's interesting that the ones who cry the loudest are the very ones why credit unions exist in the first place. So if banks did their job in lending to those of modest means, in lending to the underserved, in lending and providing capital to small businesses where they are needed in communities, both urban, rural, and suburban, then credit unions would have never existed because banks would have met the need. But credit unions came about through the exigency of the need, the time of that particular era in the 1900s, where banks were not lending to those of modest means. As a matter of fact, the Municipal Credit Union in New York City came into existence because city employees were not getting access to capital. They were not getting loans. And what they had to do was turn to loan sharks. Similarly, what people are resorting to today when they turn to payday lenders. Now, I am not alleging that payday lenders are illegal because they're not. But because their interest rates are so high, they are very similar to what loan sharks have done in the past and currently do today when they charge extremely high rates of interest and get people in never-ending debt traps. So because of the need for Main Street and for people of modest means, for the poor to gain access to products, loan products, to have access to savings accounts that pay decent amounts of or rates of interest, credit unions have stepped in the gap. You know, the history of banking, redlining is just another example where banks would only loan in certain zip codes. And there would be a line, a literal red line drawn on a map that would encompass certain zip codes where banks would not loan. And that's why you had credit unions to step in to meet the need. And because they are meeting the need, because they are providing a social good, because they are not for profit, that is why credit unions enjoy federal tax exempt status. We put people before profits. The credit union philosophy is people helping people. Our motto is that we're not for profit and we're not for charity, but we're for service. We don't have as the top priority to make profits, to make earnings, although credit unions are in the business of earning profit. But it's not the primary reason. The primary reason is so that the needs of modest Americans and the needs of the unbanked and the underserved are met, and that they are met with the signature service that every human being needs. Every decent courtesy is extended. And just because you're a person of modest means, just because you may not be a millionaire or a billionaire, doesn't mean that when you step through the doors of a financial institution that you should not be treated any differently than anyone else, regardless of socioeconomic status. And that's what credit unions seek to do. That is to level the playing field, make everyone feel welcome, whether you have only $5 in your account or if you have $5 million in your account. Everyone is treated equally with excellent personal service. As a matter of fact, even when it comes to our governance structure, because as I mentioned, we are controlled by a board of directors, a credit union that is, and also a supervisory committee that's responsible for auditing the financial statements to make sure everything is in compliance with laws and regulations. And then there's executive management that deals with the day-to-day operations of the credit unions. And this tripartite system brings about checks and balances to make sure that the credit union is operating in a sound and in a financially stable manner. But within this system of checks and balance, in this governance structure, members are the bosses. Why? Because we elect the directors to their position, and the directors hire the CEO. And the directors nominate the supervisory committees. So ultimately, it's the membership who are the bosses. And each member has a right to be on the board of directors. Each member has a right and is eligible to be on the supervisory committee. And as a matter of fact, last week, my last video was how to become a director. Because as a member, you are also an owner, and you have a voice in how your credit union is managed. As such, each member has one vote. On the other hand, when we look at your profit-motivated financial institutions like banks, it depends on the number of shares you own as a stockholder. So therefore, there is an uneven distribution of governance power between those that have a lot of stock in the bank or shares and those that do not. In a credit union, everyone has one vote. And that is one of the major differences with regard to credit unions versus banks, and supports our tax exempt status. The other thing is most of our boards of directors are volunteers. They do not receive compensation. Only federally and some state chartered credit unions, but federally chartered credit unions, usually only one director happens to get compensated, and that is if that director is also the treasurer, the accountant, the one that is doing the financial management on behalf of the credit union. That individual or director is allowed to be compensated. But for the most part, directors are volunteers. So even with this volunteer structure, it supports why credit unions are tax exempt. So there's no reason for banks to attack credit unions. Credit unions serve a particular sector of the public, a certain sector of the banking market, and credit unions are meeting the needs of the people of modest means. So yes, we are federally tax exempt. We don't pay federal business tax, but we do pay federal withholding tax on our employees. There's also federal Social Security tax that's paid and other payroll-related taxes. In addition, if a credit union is involved in another type of enterprise, like a QSO, which is the acronym for Credit Union Service Organization, that may be a subsidiary of a credit union, that entity also pays all taxes, including federal taxes. So banks need to stop the barking. If they were doing their job, if they were lending to people of modest means, if they were providing products, both loan products and savings products for those that are underserved, or unbanked, credit unions would never be in existence, and there would not be even a discussion about federal tax exempt status. they're also screaming about why we're not subject to the CRA, which is the Community Reinvestment Act, because banks are required to perform under the CRA, which is a federal law, and credit unions are not. And what I plan to do is save that for another video. But there are reasons why there's distinctions in that area, because the CRA was created because banks were not investing in the communities. But when you look at credit unions, and part of my task and part of how I advocate on behalf of credit unions is to spread the news about the good news about credit unions, spreading the good news about CUs, to show how credit unions are involved and are engaged in the communities that the members reside in. And by doing so, we are able to uplift communities, one community at a time. We invest not just in our members, but in the communities they live in. And it is my responsibility to get the word out, spreading the good news about CUs. And this is the Credit Union Evangelist signing off. Hope to see you on the next video. If you would please subscribe to this channel as we present more content. This is inside information. I know there are other voices about credit unions, but this is inside information from someone that has several years of board experience, both with a credit union and with credit union trade organizations. So hit that subscribe button. Also, like this video. Partner with me. Let's together spread the good news about CUs, or in other words, let's keep spreading the good news about credit unions. Hope to see you on the next video. Take care, be well, and God bless you. Bye-bye.